Hey guys, Alex here. I'm a barber and barbershop owner since 2015. And in this video, I wanted to share with you 4 things I think you should be doing every single time before you take a client back to your chair. It's one of the most underrated parts, I think, of what we do as barbers. We tend to focus mostly on what happens when the clients are in the chair, but I actually think that the transition time before and after you're done with the haircut is actually like one of the most important things. And this is kind of top of mind for me because I was training a new barber that just started with us the other day, and I went through this checklist with him, and I was like, I don't have this written down anywhere. I don't have any videos about this. This is literally something that's just lived inside my head. So I'm making this video for our team for training, but also for you guys, because and the best thing about this is that it's free. It's not going to cost you anything but maybe a little bit of time, and there's just 4 things that you can do, and that's going to make you more money, increase your client retention, and just make your life easier as a barber. So let's just get right into it. The first thing is right here. So before you take somebody back, so I'm going to assume that you're a barber or a hairstylist and you take appointments. And if you're looking at if you have an appointment book, right, you can use it to your advantage. And the first thing that you can do is figure out what's their name. I mean, it's shocking, but I see this happen like every day where barbers don't even look at the schedule before taking their clients back. And a lot of times they don't even know what the client's name is, let alone the other things on this list. But I think that using somebody's name is one of the most powerful ways to start building a bond with them. It's a really small touch. It's free, but it makes it more personal. So take a second, figure out what their name is, and call them by name, right? Don't say, hey, are you ready? Or come on back, I'm ready for you, and like stand at your chair and make them like awkwardly walk. Like, I can make a whole video on, and I probably will, on just how to greet a client properly, or at least the way I like to do it. And my retention is pretty good, so I think I'm doing something right. But ideally, you want to walk up to them, say their name. If you don't know how to say their name, you want to ask them. It's like, hey, how do you say your name? Some people know like that they have difficult names to say, and they will appreciate the fact that you even tried to figure out what the right way is. So if you don't know how to say their name, just ask them like, hey, how do you say your name? Okay, I'm ready for you. If you can't say it, then at least you tried, right? But always, always, always look at the appointment book, try to figure out what their name is, and then use it. Super easy, super simple. A lot of barbers don't do this. It also helps you remember it too. Like if you're somebody that has trouble remembering people's names, I mean, one of the best ways you can remember is by using it. And you get their name by, looking at the schedule or just asking them, or both, right? And then you can use it throughout the service to help even more as far as like remembering it and putting it in your memory. All right, so the next thing on our list is, what are they getting done? So keep in mind, these are all things that you want to do before you take them back in your chair, right? I mean, worst case scenario, you could do these things while they're in your chair. Maybe you have the app on your phone or whatever. Some barbers do that. I don't see anything wrong with that. Ideally, I like to do these things before the client's butt leaves the waiting area chair. So that way I know by the time they get back to my chair, I know exactly what they're getting done. So you want to know what they're getting done, and the reason why is you sometimes, like in our system, I can maybe show you a little bit here. Sometimes, like in our system, clients can book add-ons. So like this little plus symbol right here means that's an add-on, but there's no other indication on the schedule other than that tiny little symbol that this client is getting an add-on. So if sometimes what happens is that client or barbers will do the entire service because they just see the haircut and they miss that little symbol there that the client wanted an add-on. So barbers will do the entire service and then get to the front desk to go check the client out, just to realize that, oh, this client wanted a waxing, or this client wanted a shampoo, or whatever. And then at that point, one of two things happens. Most of the time, what ends up happening is that the client is like, oh, don't worry about it, I don't need it anymore, because they're ready to go, right? And it's kind of embarrassing on both ends because they booked it, so they did want it, most likely. And the barber clearly is demonstrating to the client that they did not look, they did not pay attention to what services they were getting done. They just saw the haircut and took them back, thinking that was just a haircut, but they wanted more than just a haircut. And one of the best ways you can avoid that situation altogether is just by looking. And the other thing that might happen is that they do want it, and then you have to take them back to your chair. And by now, you're usually behind, right? Because what most barbers do is they see, oh, they're just getting a haircut. I got 30 minutes. I'm going to spend the entire 30 minutes on a haircut. So if you do that, and then just to find out that the client wants an add-on after, now you're usually going to be behind. Where if you have that in your mind before you take them back, like this client wants a haircut and a wax, so that means I got to do the haircut and leave enough time to do the wax after, right? So you want to look at the schedule and see all the services that the client booked before you take them back. And that way you can avoid those situations where either the client doesn't want anymore, so that's costing you money and costing the shop money, or you have to put that situation where you have to do it still because the client still wants it, but now you might be behind, and that's your fault. In either case, that's your fault. And all of these things on this list probably literally take like less than 10 seconds, maybe 20, if you're really slow at it. So far, what's their name? What are they getting done? Okay, let's move on to number 3, which is how much time do you have? So you can, and by the way, you can do all this by looking at the exact same appointment. Our schedule at least works this way, but all of these things can be done without even like clicking a button, well, except for the last one. But how much time do you have? So why is that important? I like to know how much time I have before I take a client back, because if they're getting a haircut, at least at our shop, I know I have 30 minutes to get this done. So like I mentioned earlier, like if you know you have a certain amount of time to do this service, then you will try to get it done within that time, right? At least you should. But sometimes you have like space after a client, like maybe they just wanted a haircut, but you got nothing going on after. So what you can do is use that as an opportunity to see if the clients need any more services, or maybe they might ask you, right? And one thing I see happen all the time, and that's because barbers aren't doing this, is that a client might sit in their chair and they originally just booked a haircut, but they also asked if the barber had time to do a beard trim. And because the barber didn't look at the schedule before they took them back, they have to stop what they're doing now and go check the schedule on the computer to see if they have the time to add on the service. Where if you look before you take them back, you can know without even having to walk over to the computer, like, yeah, I have a little bit of time after you, so I can definitely squeeze in the beard trim. No problem. Or, I got somebody right after you. I can't do it, but I can see if somebody else is available to get that done. And then you let the client decide, right? So this is super simple, and it might seem kind of obvious, but I see barbers mess this up on a daily basis. So just look at how much time you have. That way you can see, do I have time to add on services or not? Super simple. And the last thing. So look at their notes. So client notes are so powerful. I mean, if you're not taking notes on your clients, then there's like just huge takeaway from if you just take one thing from this video. I mean, using their name is pretty important. I was going to say that was going to be the number one thing, but I mean, you're going to learn their name at some point, but hopefully if they come back. But you want to take notes on every single client whenever possible, right? Maybe if they're like just visiting in town and they don't live there, it's maybe just not worth it to take the time to put notes. But for sure, with repeat clients, they should have notes for sure. It's gonna make your job and all the other barbers' job, if you work in a barbershop, so much easier if you take detailed notes on every single client you do. So once you take the notes, right, and it's about how they get their haircut done, some personal things about them, I'll probably make another video on just how to do notes. But once you take the notes, like use them. Like that's the next step, right? Because a lot of some barbers, some of our barbers are like very good at taking notes, but then they don't like look at them before they. So what's the point of taking notes if you're not gonna like look at them the next time the client comes back in? So that's why it's the last thing on this list, and it's the only thing that might require like a couple extra steps because you might have to open up their profile, see where you save the notes, etc. But look at their notes before you take them back because unless they're a new client, they should have notes in your system if you're being good about taking notes. And I mean, ideally, you want to put the notes in when it's fresh, either right after you finish the haircut or same day. Like if you're busy, like you can do it later, but try to do it the same day while it's fresh. Because even I found like waiting till the next day is hard, to remember. Like, oh man, who was this guy? I don't remember what I did with him. Because if you're doing like 10, 15, 20 haircuts a day, I mean, it's hard to remember every single person's haircut the next day. I mean, even the same day, it might get hard. So look at their notes. So put the notes in, ideally when it's fresh, right? Especially if you have the time, and then use them next time they come in. So look at them, see what they got done, and then the consultation at that point is so much shorter. It's just like, so I saw that. And by the way, this is one of the easiest ways to impress your clients because nobody is doing this in our industry. So you can, when a client comes in and you say, hey, I looked at your notes and last time we did this, and this. Did you want to do that again or did you want to change anything up? Most clients are just like blown away because they've never had barbers that leave notes for them before. And it's just like changes the game, right? And then at that point, all you got to do is update them, right? So unless maybe you don't have to even update them if the client never changes their haircut. But if they do, I would go and update the notes. But look at the damn notes. After you put them in the system, like look at them. So unless they're a new client, this is why you can skip this step if they're new. Like our system tells us if it's a new client, like this little star. So I already know that this guy, William, is not going to have notes, right? But sometimes clients leave notes when they're booking an appointment. So that's important to know. I don't see any on the schedule. Let's see this guy. No. Yeah, I don't see any on the schedule today, but sometimes clients can leave us notes when they're booking, like may want to add a beard trim or something like that. So that's important to look at. So if the client leaves notes for their appointment or if you leave notes, either way, look at it. And unless they're new, they should have notes in your system. So just check what the note says, and that makes the consultation so much shorter because it's either like, okay, same thing as last time, or are we switching something up? Same thing? Okay. Consultation took like 15 seconds at that point if it's the same thing. So do these 4 things every single time before you take somebody back in your chair. Ideally, before their butt leaves the waiting area chair, you do this. Or you can do it in the chair. I like to do it before. Play with the timing. But I would say if you do these 4 things, you will make more money. Your job will be less stressful. And your life will your clients will really like respond well to it. I've never had a client complain about any of these things. So hopefully you found that helpful. See you in the next one.